Hello there, right here we have a brand new version for 1.17. This is actually the very first pre-release. So this means that we are getting very close to the full release. If you guys don't know how pre-releases work, they put these out not necessarily once every Wednesday, but they can do it whenever they make some good advancements in fixing the game. So it's very possible that we can see the full release of 1.17 in about 2 or 3 weeks. And if you guys do enjoy learning new things about Minecraft, make sure you guys are subscribed as we discover new things all the time about the latest snapshot. And make sure to hop on over to my Twitch stream where we will be testing out all the latest changes. And while you're over there, make sure to drop a follow, as that's where I design up every single farm you see on my YouTube channel. So you can always check out the archives for seeing how I do that. The first big one is that they brought back candles for survival. So now you can once again craft them up in your crafting recipe with honeycomb and string, and it will produce a candle. And then you can dye those for all the different colors, and you can light them, which now has a unique texture. So they're easy to distinguish from the unlit ones. Also, they will be putting in the candles for the Bedrock Edition shortly after the full release for 1.17 in the Bedrock Edition. That's probably why they didn't want to release them for Java, because they weren't ready for them in the Bedrock Edition. I know a lot of people are going to be excited for these very cool new blocks. They also added in some new advancements for 1.17 that has to do with the new things that are in 1.17. So right here we got a new one, which is whatever floats your goat. If you put a goat in a boat and you hop in it yourself, you will get that new advancement. Putting wax on copper will get you wax on. And if you go ahead and remove the wax, it will get you another advancement called wax off. Helping axolotls in a fight against different mobs will get you the new advancement, which is called the healing power of friendship. This will give you the regen effect for a short period of time, which comes from the axolotls. Putting some glow ink onto a sign will get you a new advancement, which is called Glow and Beyond. And also notice that the outline is more prominent on the signs. Wearing leather boots and then walking across some powdered snow, since you don't fall in, gets you this advancement, which is called Light as a Rabbit, as rabbits can walk across powdered snow without falling in. Having a lightning strike happen near a village, but instead get put into a lightning rod, will give you surge protection. This can be done during a lightning storm with a trident with a channeling enchantment. Looking at a parrot through a telescope will get you this advancement, which is it a bird? And looking at a gas through the telescope will get you this one, is it a balloon? And the last one you can get by looking at the ender dragon through your telescope, and it'll come up as, is it a plane? So very funny advancements that all kind of have other references to real life sayings. And the last three kind of make you go through the 3 dimensions, make you look at stuff with your spyglass. Holding down spacebar during the credits will speed them up more than normal. So up next, we're going to take a look at how the developers actually made these advancements possible. And then after that, we'll look at a bunch of bug fixes that change stuff. So obviously, these advancements are pretty specific in what you have to do. So they added new triggers as well as predicates, so they can easily apply this to the game with code. So they got started writing when the player starts riding a vehicle, or if an entity starts to ride a vehicle that's being ridden by the player. And then there's a condition, and once they put these in the game, they can use this for all sorts of things, including the players can use this to make their own custom advancements. So it's really useful stuff. Like one for lightning strikes, so it detects when the lightning finishes, and it triggers for any player on the server. The conditions are player, lightning, and bystander. They also got one for using items. It gets triggered every tick when using different items. And the conditions are the player they're using the item and what item they're using. That's how they can make the player like use a spyglass and then look at a ghast. There's a effects change one. So when you gain like a beacon effect, or effects are self-applied, or effects are removed. There's also predicates. So there's one for the items, the blocks, entities, the players, and the lightning bolt. There's a new way to record performance metrics for reporting, and you can do this with a shortcut, pressing F3 and then tapping L. And you can see in the chat, it says profiling started for 10 seconds, using F3 plus L to stop early. After 10 seconds, it'll come up with a message saying stopped tick profiling after 10.01 seconds and 790 ticks, equivalent to this many ticks per second. And then it says that the profile has ended and it's been saved at this location. And you can click that and it will pop up the folder. And you can open up the files and look at stuff like this where it shows how the ticks were doing throughout the entire 10 seconds. And there's all sorts of ones. Here's one showing the CPU and how it's doing. The really precise stuff that you can use to determine if there is any problems occurring in your Minecraft game. This can be especially used in bug reports If you notice that performance goes down with new changes added into the game. This can be done on single player, and it can also be done on multiplayer with servers. But you have to use the command perf start and perf stop if you want to stop it early. Besides those new features, they also came out with a bunch of bug fixes that affect things like TNT dupers, as well as a lot of lag issues and crashes in the snapshots. Let's check all those out and see how they'll affect survival gameplay. They fixed a funny bug where it could appear that the player is always in a death loop, also known as a fake death. This was done by giving the player a max health attribute. Now you couldn't normally do this in survival, but it was still a lot of fun. They fixed a bug to do with intersecting structures can create corrupt block entities such as spawners or chests. This is something that was discovered by Andrew. He found out that if you would have a buried treasure that intersected a cave spider spawner during normal generation of vanilla survival, the game would try to take the location where it wants to put the buried treasure, remove that block, and then put the chest there, but then that block that was there, most likely being stone, it replicated on the different sides that are open to try to keep the chest from being seen. So if the block that was getting replaced by the spawner was instead a cave spider spawner, it would try to put a spawner on all the different sides. And since I didn't choose what type of spawner it would be, it would use the default one, which would end up with a bunch of pig spawners. So in 1.16, you can actually get pig spawners in survival, but it's extremely rare. If you want to check out his video, I'll link it down below. Very cool find by Andrew. So if you want to get this rare, you want to get it in 1.16 because it's not possible in 1.17 with this bug fix. There was a problem that structures near lava pools could have some of their blocks being replaced, such as trees could have their leaves being replaced as stone, which would make those weird like floating stone you see in the air after the tree burns away. Or even end portals could have the end portal frames replaced with stone, making it impossible to get to the end dimension. The powder snow bucket has now been moved up here with all the other buckets. If you have a loaded crossbow in your offhand, your main hand completely vanishes. They fixed it so that geodes will no longer generate inside of icebergs, and rune portals won't generate inside of the entrance end portal. They fixed a ghost item that would occur if the player would close the inventory while having the item in their hand. There was some jittering occurring when the credits were playing, and they fixed that. If you would put more than 12 characters into a structure block, it could kick you from a server. You can hold down the shift button and press up key to send servers to the top of the screen, but if you would constantly hold these down, it would crash the game. Inside of jigsaw blocks, if you set the template pool to a high value, it will cause the world to lag and eventually run out of memory. Flowing liquids were looking too dark through tinted glass, and that's fixed. There was a problem that the animation for the flames of a candle did not show up if you would turn your particles to minimal. They wouldn't know if a candle was lit or not. Now that's been changed. There was this problem that if you apply glow ink to a sign that's already written out but isn't dyed, it wouldn't actually make it glow. It's possible to have glow liking floating inside of certain underground structures. There was some Z fighting occurring with the small drip leaf, which they addressed. Azaleas weren't able to be placed inside our flower pots. So this is what it now looks like. Very small and cute. Endermen are able to pick up the flowering one, but now they also add it so they can pick up the normal azalea. And we can see this in this tag over here to the right hand side where it says Minecraft Enderman Holdable. They fixed a problem to do with AMD drives having shaders on would sometimes fail and crash in 1.17. If you have absorption hearts, they weren't showing the same wither effect as the other ones. If you would reload resource packs while having the fabulous graphics on, it would sometimes cause a crash with AMD drives. There was a problem when Coral would try to generate and there wouldn't be a block that can place itself up against. It could cause a crash. Last time they fixed it so that vegetation wouldn't be floating over surface liquid, but it wasn't working for snow layers, so now it should also apply to them. This bug fix was also not working for different vegetation over top of sand and gravel, and now it should. And some floating grass were still making it over top of lava lakes. Non-waxed copper blocks could use any tool to mine them up, not just stone and above. So that's been changed. With the fossils and the coal blocks that they generate with, it was still possible for them to generate through the world and break bedrock. There was a crash that occurred with scoreboards with special objectives that they fixed. They fixed the bug to do with player heads, custom ones, when you try to load them up. You notice how that lag just occurred there when I try to open this box? And that's because these are custom player heads, and when these get loaded, the game has to try to search to figure out which images they contain. And this is a box one of the viewers gave me. So that lag that is associated with loading these should be fixed in the latest snapshot. They also fixed this lag problem associated when you give yourself a player head. They removed a bug to do with if the game is given a custom rain level value that's extremely high, then it will actually lag out the game. There was freezes occurring in the game if you would have a passive mob that was far away that'd be angry towards a player, then entering another portal would cause the game to completely freeze. Lighting candles can no longer take delay. Amethyst blocks will now make a chime when mobs walk on top of it. There was a nasty bug that would crash servers. It had to do with zombie piglins pathfinding to players, and then if the player would teleport away, the piglins pathfinding could crash the server. In an earlier snapshot, they fixed a bug to do with entities disappearing because of the way that they were saved in a chunk. But during the fix of that bug, they changed it so that entities are loaded after a scheduled tick, meaning that if there is like a minecart on top of a detector rail, the detector rail will actually turn off because it doesn't know that there is an entity, and then would eventually turn back on. And this could cause random pulses to occur depending on how chunks are loaded. And this was causing a lot of problems, including TNT that was inside of TNT Dupers, like this one here, to update, and you lose the actual initial block right here. So now you should no longer get random pulses inside of redstone components, and you shouldn't lose your TNT blocks inside of the TNT Dupers. It changed the way that the player appears to be holding the drip leaf. So before it was like this, the player was kind of not really holding on the block at all. You can see that compared to like holding other types of blocks. So that's been changed to look better. When in water and lava at the same time, the player wasn't showing flame animations, and apparently that was a bug, so now you should. There was a problem that synchronized entity data was using the locks incorrectly. I don't quite understand this bug report entirely, but it seems like this was causing arrows that were shot on a server to contain invalid data, which caused all the arrows to have similar information. There was a bunch of shaders missing from the game, which is causing the console to spam a bunch of messages. It also fixed a bug that was part of the noise which is used to generate terrain. Now this fix won't actually change the visual terrain, but it will change how it calculates it internally. And this does have a significant improvement upon the performance of when it's doing these calculations. So when generating new terrain, it should be a lot faster. You might notice if you have a falling block and right before it hits the ground, it kind of shudders, like it vanishes, and this is now fixed. There's a problem that you could place azaleas onto clay, but when you bone mill them, they wouldn't actually grow. So now the tree will actually grow and convert clay into rooted dirt. If the player would die, the player is still able to move until he respawns. So if we go fall and then we just die, you can see the player keeps on falling downwards. And now this has changed so the player will freeze in midair until you hit the respawn, and then you'll end up your new spot. This allowed for some strange things, like you could fall into the void and then you could just keep falling even though you're technically dead. There was a problem that goats were trying to ram entities that were outside of the world border. Now they shouldn't. There was a problem when you highlighted text inside of a sign, the whole thing would constantly flash instead of just staying solid, and that would be like the old way. The axe is still the intended tool to use on carpets, despite them changing it so it's supposed to be the hoe, just like it is for moss blocks. Now everything will be the hoe. Axle autos were still making ambient noises even though they were in the process of playing dead. They fixed the problem that when you would first load up the snapshot, it would sometimes cause Minecraft to crash. They also fixed a problem to do with custom floating islands that were built in another dimension that exceeded the height limit. Using a data pack would cause the game to crash, and now it shouldn't. In the statistics, the sorting of items wasn't working properly, and now it should. Certain mobs that have the invisibility effect that are also given the glow effect will have pieces shown of them that are missing. Like this is a sheep with wool, but it doesn't show the wool actually on the sheep. Looks like it's been sheared. Ender crystals that were on the exit end portal prior to 1.9 would not summon the Ender Dragon. That's been changed. Now the majority of these bug fixes were related to prominent issues like crashing and performance issues. This is a good indication that they're getting close to the full release of 1.17. I'm really glad to see them fixing these more problematic issues that people would definitely run into if they started playing 1.17, especially on servers. I'm sure they really want to avoid the whole incident like 1.13, where they kind of came out with it too early without fixing some pretty major issues that affected survival servers. Now there is still some prominent major lag issues. This one here is one that we come across quite a bit during our testing streams, which is if you cross certain borders, it will create a huge lag spike, and you can actually visualize that with the chart on the bottom. You can get that chart by pressing Alt and then F3. So the FPS like completely crashes when you cross these borders, and this lag only occurs to the person that's hopping the border. As you can see, it has no effect on the TPS of the server. I'll have that bug report linked down below, and if you could upvote it, that'd be great. There is a lot of cool stuff coming out with 1.17. even though we're not getting the new caves under the ground. And I have already designed a farm for every single new item coming out. So if you haven't already seen those videos, check out my Simple Farms playlist linked below. And remember, every Wednesday, right after new snapshots come out, we test these changes on a world with the viewers. You guys can get the IP of that by joining my live stream link below or by checking out my Discord. I would like to thank you guys for liking and sharing, and I will see you guys over there at my Twitch stream. Bye bye.